What are the common, tough, and interesting questions that managers and executives face day to day that they come across and there's some commonality? Well, these are the top 5 that we come across with answers to help you on your leadership journey. The first question is, how do I deal with a star employee who's becoming a toxic influence? This is a good one because talent matters. And having high performing and highly talented people will make your job easier from a leadership perspective. Until they start to hurt the team's culture. This is important because it is possible to get addition by subtraction. Sometimes removing one of your highest and most performing team member that is toxic can actually increase the performance of others because they step up to the plate in their absence. Now, it doesn't always happen like this, and certainly letting go of a high-performing team member shouldn't be the first resort, but the team always has to come before an individual. So if you're in one of these situations, do your best to get the star performer or high performing employee that is getting toxic to understand that the team comes first and the role that they play in helping the team perform. And if they don't change their toxic behaviors, the only answer is going to do it somewhere else. Now, is this easy? No, it is not. But it is important. And here's why. Negativity and toxicity spreads, and it spreads like a cancer, and you have to root it out. As my friend John Gordon calls them, energy vampires. It's like we have to root that stuff out quickly or it starts to take hold in other team members, and then you have a massive problem. All right, question number 2. What's the best way to hold someone accountable without micromanaging? Again, accountability is at the center of any successful team and any successful leader. So this is a tricky one, but accountability must be your obligation. It's not like a kind of a nice to have. It's got to be at the center of the way that you lead. And it has to start with holding yourself accountable to the standards that you set for others. Because what that does is it earns you the right to hold other people accountable, and not because of your title, but because of the way that you lead. Now, here's the tricky part, because accountability does require inspection. You must inspect what you expect. So if you have expectations or standards of performance, you must inspect them in a natural and healthy way. Micromanagement is not a healthy way. Micromanagement is about control and often preference over performance. And that means if there's multiple ways to do something, but the result ends up being the same or better, that it's okay with how it was done if someone does it that way. But if you are trying to control it in preference, now you're getting into real micromanagement categories. There are obviously exceptions to this rule, like a process that has to be followed the same way, or safety concerns by someone doing it wrong. But overarchingly, if you want to hold people accountable without micromanaging, we have to be clear about how and when you're going to inspect what it is that they do, and ensure that you tell them why you're inspecting it. What are the things that you're looking for to help them grow or get better versus just being I'm inspecting it to control the situation. Very important, very difficult, but essential to get consistent performance. And that is accountability at the center of the way that you lead. All right, question number 3. We lost a big client. My team is discouraged. What's my first move? Well, the first move has to go to Napoleon's. Napoleon said a leader's job is to define reality and deliver hope. You lose a big client, the team gets discouraged. Your first move is to define reality, to not sugarcoat it, to not act like losing the big client didn't happen, to not pretending that everything's going to magically be okay tomorrow. It has to start with a definition of reality. We lost this big client, and let's try to identify either why we lost that big client so we can do it better in the future, or get on the same page with what our next moves are because we lost this big client. There's an old saying that I really love, which is, it's not about every next step you take after disappointment. It's just about the first one. There's nothing wrong with being disappointed when something bad or negative happens. That's not the problem. The problem is staying in that state. The problem is wallowing in it and then not acting differently to change your outcomes in the future. And if you want to be a great leader in this situation, define reality and then deliver hope by figuring out exactly what the first next step is that everybody can take to improve the situation moving forward, to get us either back where we were or to a better place if we overcome this. All right, question number 4. Is it ever okay for a leader to show frustration or even cry in front of their team? Absolutely, if it's authentic. I was watching this show recently called The Day of the Jackal, and it was about a former military British soldier who becomes a hired hitman. And he had built this skill that allowed him to cry on command. And it looked so authentic. But the minute he would look away from the person that he was crying with, he could dry up those tears in an instant. Not only is it okay to cry in front of somebody, but it must be authentic. This fake tears, acting sad, but you're really not. Eventually people see through it, and it leads you further away from being an authentic leader. And that's what's required today. So if being disappointed or showing frustration in the moment or even tears is the authentic emotions in a situation, you must express them that way because it shows your authenticity. We don't want to stay in a highly emotional state because it's difficult to make good decisions and take action, but to express it, not in a personal attack, but in disappointment or in some form of emotion, will actually be an attractive quality, not something that detracts people from you. Don't shy away from being an authentic leader. In fact, everybody else is already taken. You must be yourself. I think to the example of Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions head coach. And when he took his introductory press conference 5 years ago, when he took the job, he talked about biting off people's kneecaps. And all of the media in the room were like, who is this guy that we hired? He was so intense. But he stayed true to the leader he is. He didn't change just to make people feel good. He was an authentic version of himself, and he has been the whole time. And while the first season they really struggled, they going 3-13-1. In the last few years, they've been 27-7, and they're the number one seed in the NFC. And much of it can be attributed to his authentic leadership. People are drawn to it. They don't want to work for a fake leader. They don't want to work for a phony leader that pretends everything's okay when it's not. Do it in a healthy manner, but be authentic. Okay, number 5, and the last one. One of my team members has great ideas, but struggles to communicate them. How can I help? Well, communication's at the center of every great team and every great relationship, whether it be a professional manager direct report relationship or a marriage. So we have to start with the foundation that communication is a two-way street. It is not just about what you say to them. It is about how they receive what you say to them. And when they provide an idea back to you, it's not just about what they say, it's about how you receive that idea. So to start, we have to understand that the foundation of successful relationships is communication. Now, shortly after that, now your job, when you see someone with good ideas, is to help them bring it to life. Because a great idea is not a great idea if people can't understand it. So part of your job will be coaching that person to improve their communication skills so they can land that plane. No one, and I mean no one, likes to get on a plane and go up and just never come down. Planes are made to take off and come down. And part of this team member's job and your job is to get them to have that idea, get that plane to take off, but most importantly, land that plane in a way that will move people or help people take that idea forward. We teach the 3 C's of successful communication. That is clear, concise, and conclusive. So if you're trying to help this team member land that plane, a great way to do it might be to tell them, hey, John, I've noticed that you've got some great ideas about ways that we can grow. And I'm excited by them. I'm so proud that you have the courage to voice the ideas in your head. We need that. It's at the center of our future for success. But I've also noticed that people struggle to understand it or take action on it. Would you be opposed to going over some communication strategies to help you when you have your next idea? The answer to that question will be a proverbial yes, because now you're there to help them get their ideas into action and not to judge them for their lack of skill. And then you get to plan out their next idea. You get it in a clear, concise, and conclusive manner. You get what the main idea is. You get them to define the stats or the things that gave them this idea and what their recommendation is moving forward. And then you will start to see their skill improved. And in the future, they'll be able to take it on themselves. It reminds me of that old idea from John Maxwell, which is a leader's job is to show someone what to do, to watch them do it, for that person to then do it on their own. And then the last phase is when they teach someone else. That's when you know they've got it. And there's a little bit of that in this question. Part of your job is to show them how to communicate an idea effectively, to watch them do it and provide coaching, to have them do it on their own, and then have them teach somebody else how to do it so you know they've started to master it. 5 difficult, challenging, and tough questions, and it's my hope that some of these ideas will help you if you encounter them as well. If you have future leadership questions and you want to ask them, email them to jeades@learnloft.com and we will answer them on a future episode. Until next time, be a great leader at work and at home.